So, Cyprus at a glance. I know Paulina went over a few things in her presentation, but it doesn't help to remind ourselves. So our official name is the Republic of Cyprus. We have an independent sovereign republic with a presidential system of government, where the president is both the head of state and of the government. We have separation of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches of government, and they each have independent powers. Cyprus has been a member of the EU since 2004, and we have adopted the euro in 2008. Greek is the official language in the island, but English is quite widespread. A few statistics now on the real estate in Cyprus, which is one of the key pillars of the economy in Cyprus. Foreign investors can benefit, of course, from the island's location. We have a lot of tax benefits to Cypriot residents or investors. And we have also favorable immigration policies that we wish to use them to boost our economy. A few statistics on the transaction volumes. We have seen a huge increase from 2014. You might remember that 2013 was the year we had the financial crisis, the banking crisis in Cyprus, actually. So from the increase between 2021 and 2022, we have seen a 12.6% increase. 2020 versus 2022, 41.8%. For 2019, we've seen 15.6% increase. That's a chart showing it helps visualize the trend better. The values now, the transaction values, so that the previous cards were about the actual numbers. Now this is the value. So we have seen also together with the increase in the share numbers, we've seen also an increase in value. So from 2014 to 2022, we've seen a huge increase of 147%, 31.25% just last year, basically, just the 2021 to 2022. 2020 to 2022, 56.6% increase. And 2019 to 2022, a 20% increase. I should comment that those figures were probably a bit influenced by the now obsolete scheme with the citizenship by investment, which it's no longer applies. Again, the chart to show the trends. So yeah, it's booming basically. And now also, as you can see, we have a phenomenal increase of properties acquired by EU and their country nationals. I mean, 859% is huge. And those are the figures. Again, the figures between 2019 and 2022 are most probably influenced by the citizenship by investment scheme, because also, especially 2022 was the year that it was announced that it would be withdrawn. So everybody just rushed in, but the figures are there anyway, and certainly drove the market prices up. And it drove the real estate industry to new peaks and made the country even more favorable for investment. So numbers of transfers per district for the year 2022. I just wanted to show this to show you where the trends of which districts and which cities in Cyprus have the most movement in terms of property sales. So you see Nicosia is first in number of sales, and Limassol follows, but in the amounts, Nicosia is second very closely to Paphos, which is third, and Limassol is the city or the district with the higher sale amounts, which shows that properties in Limassol are much higher in value than properties in Limassol and Nicosia, which also is the capital of the country. Also, you can see Larnaca that has quite a lot of number of sales. It doesn't reflect on the sale amount. So one could say that that could be an investment opportunity there in Larnaca. And for 2023, we have the statistics up until May. There's a similar trend where Nicosia has been surpassed by Limassol also in the number of sales, but the difference in the total amount, which is actually the money spent for those properties, is it's more than double. So again, Limassol is high prices and rising. Nicosia has it never loses, let's say, the its movement, but the prices are not as high as Limassol, and we can see again Larnaca increasing in number of sales, and the total amount of money spent for those sales is not as high as the number of sales themselves. Again, those are mentioned for as investment opportunities. Now, the legal framework regarding land conveyancing in Cyprus. So the Department of Lands and Surveys, or as we call it, the Land Registry, is the main authority dealing with registration of property in Cyprus. The Land Registry is also in charge of valuations and cartography of land parcels. I mentioned valuation because valuations are taken into consideration for tax purposes and also for at the time of the actual conveyancing. So we'll go through it in the next slide, but it's the land registry valuation is used as a reference. The land registry offices of each district keep records of ownership, rights, charges, and contracts for each property. And all properties must be registered with the land registry. This is important because this makes the land registry the first and last point when you want to conduct real estate due diligence. Having said that, it's often the case that not all properties are registered as they are. What I mean is that there's a lot of properties where there's just lots of land, and the developers or the owners who have built properties on them have not yet succeeded in obtaining a title deed for the building. So the title deed for that property will only reflect the plot. However, that will still be registered, and it's and you can encumber that plot. You can mortgage it. So every charge on that plot will be registered with the land registry. Even though there might be a building on that, that does not show the title deed. Next up is the actual conveyance of land in Cyprus. We have three ways to purchase property. First of all is to purchase with immediate transfer of title deed. There's a peculiarity in the Cyprus law that it doesn't strictly require a written contract to have to buy land, basically. because at the end of the day, both the buyer and the purchaser go to the land registry together to confirm the transaction. However, this practice, I don't think it's been followed anymore. I mean, it's much safer to understand to have a contract in place. So which is the second way to purchase property. And the third way is to purchase through assignment. Assignment, as you might understand, is when there's an initial seller and purchaser of land or property, and the purchaser wants to sell the property to a third party, but for some reason the conveyance upon the first purchaser hasn't been completed yet. Title deeds may be pending, construction permits, all sorts of reasons. It's not that unusual. It's a practice that's also recognized by the banks, and they can mortgage based on the assignment agreement. So, or another reason why you might need an assignment contract is because there might be a number of developments on a single plot of land and they haven't been divided yet. So that can be, if you want to transfer or sell just one building in that plot that hasn't been divided yet, you can use an assignment agreement. You can do it through an assignment agreement. Main steps to property conveyance is, of course, to perform due diligence on the property through the land registry. As I told you before, most of the charges are discoverable. If not, then they should have been, and then there's a whole other legal issue why they might not be recorded in the registry. You have to draft the agreement. It might be a reservation agreement, a sale agreement, an assignment agreement, as we said before, or a cancellation agreement. You submit the contract with the land registry. This does not mean that you actually convey the land or that the land is transferred from the purchaser. To submit a contract with the land registry means to go to the land registry and submit the contract. And in that way, you secure your rights as a purchaser to that property pending completion of the transaction. So when you have a contract of sale submitted with the land registry, it means that you take precedent over any other creditor that might appear on the property of the seller, let's say. And also the land registry will stop any further transactions with that property, and you are sure that the seller will not go ahead and sell the property to someone else without you knowing. Next up is to pay the stamp duties. Stamp duties, I noticed the question before, is what we have in Cyprus. I would say it's actual stamps that we still have and use, and we have to put it on the contracts in order for them to be, in a way, notarized. Of course, I use that term loosely, because notarization is differently, but just to get it across and try to explain it better. It's basically a fee that needs to be paid upon any contract or upon the transaction, and it's indirect tax to the government. Also, in order for the property to be able to be conveyed, or to be able to be sold, or to be transferred to another person, there has to be no outstanding taxes or fees to local authorities related to that property, and that could be sewage, rubbish collection, municipal fees. So just to make it easier to understand, it's a chance for the government to make sure that the seller does not owe anything to the government in regards to that property, and it's a chance for the government to ensure that on the sale. So they make the seller pay. I mean, of course, that's subject to contract, who's going to rather than the cost, but they basically make the seller pay any outstanding debts relating to that property, storage, rubbish, municipal fees, all sorts of things. And then you apply for the tenant deed insurance. So that's completion basically. And you book an appointment with the land registry and appear in person to complete the transaction. I say in person, of course, this can be done through POAs and just one person can go for both parties. They can, for example, authorize an advocate to go for both the seller and the purchaser and complete the transaction without actually without the parties being present before the land registry. But still, someone has to go, and someone has to show authorization from the parties. Okay, so buying property in Cyprus and is of course one means to get in tax residency in Cyprus. We'll show later on the residence permit schemes. Paulina had gone over briefly the corporate benefits of the Cypriot taxation system. The 12.5% corporate tax was mentioned. It was mentioned that dividend income is exempt from Cyprus income tax, except for that dividend that are deductible for tax purposes for the paying company. Active interest, that is the interest that's derived from the ordinary activities of the company, is taxed at a rate of 12.5%. The company's taxable profit, and passive interest is taxed at the rate of 30%. Paulina also mentioned that we have double tax agreements with 65 jurisdictions, and the VAT in Cyprus is currently at 19 for most services and products. Of course, there's certain products that have less VAT, such as milk and bread, but those are specific provisions are made in the laws for this. For an individual, the benefits is that a Cypriot tax resident is taxed on income accruing or arising from sources both within or outside Cyprus. But for a non-Cypriot, and I saw a question in the chat before, for a non-Cypriot tax resident, tax is only charged on income accruing or arising from sources within Cyprus. And there's a breakdown of the tax rates in Cyprus. So for 0 to 19,500 per year taxable income, there's no tax applied. From then there's the second bracket up to 28,000 per year, which is taxed at 20%. Then it's 25%, and that's that would be 20% on any income up to 28,000, and then 25% on any income above that. So that would be 1,700 euros plus 25% of the income above the 28,000, and so on. And now permanent residency. Permanent residency is granted to individuals and their families by buying and or investing in real estate and securities. Again, I saw a question before in the chat. If someone wants to buy property with his spouse, then whether they both get residency. They do. I'll explain further down how. Requirements. You need an investment of 300,000 euros plus VAT in real estate or securities. You have to have proof of annual income of 50,000 or at least 50,000 euros secured and deposited in a Cyprus bank account. And now coming to the spouse and the dependents, you need to have an addition to the 50,000 euros, extra 15,000 for in case of a spouse, and an additional 10,000 per underage dependent children. The process can be arranged without the applicant being present. However, once approved, the applicant and whoever else comes with them, whoever else is granted residency, will need to come to get biometric measures from the applicant. So to go back to the question of buying property with a spouse, the applicant would be one of the spouses, and the spouse would be the additional person, meaning that we still need the investment of 300,000, but instead of 50,000 secured and deposited in the Cyprus bank account, we would need 65, and an additional 10K for the children. So investment options for obtaining permanent residency. You may invest in residential property, you may invest in non-residential properties, or you may invest in the share capital of a company, or in a fund such as naive, or a naive of limited number of persons. Investment in residential property. There's no resale option. You cannot use that property for generating income, but the property can be renewed. That is to move to another residential property. The funds must all come from abroad, and applicants can invest in up to 2 units, but each must make at least they must meet the 300,000 threshold. And also, it's important to note that if the applicant is relocated in Cyprus with his family, then the property must meet the reasonable needs of the size of the applicant, the size of the applicant's family. So it would, on that point, it wouldn't suffice just to buy a one-bed apartment, even if it's for €500,000. And you have a family of it's two husband and wife, there's 2 persons, 2 children, so 4 members. It wouldn't suffice. Now, investment in non-residential properties, there is a resale option. They can be new or used, and it may relate to offices, shops, hotels, or other developments. And of course, income can be generated from such investment. And the third option, which is the investment in share capital, of course, the company must be registered and operating in Cyprus. It has to have at least 5 people staff. It has to be able to exhibit physical presence, that is to have offices, to have landlines. It needs to be able to show that it's in Cyprus and operating in Cyprus. The investor may be appointed director. He would have to be unpaid though, and but they can still receive the investors can still receive the dividends from such an investment. Alternatively to the share capital of the company, an investor may invest 300,000 euros in units of a collective investment. As I said before, the naive or the naive of a limited number of persons. Now, benefits for the permanent residency. We have fast-track procedures that usually take 2 to 4 months for each application, which is quite fast for Cyprus standards. And the dependent members of the family, they must file a separate application. And that's important to note. And by getting a permanent residency, you can enter and reside in Cyprus freely with no limitation. And you may be eligible for a citizenship by naturalization after 7 years of continuous residency in Cyprus. And also you get access to the general health care system. Residence right is of unlimited validity for the holder and his or her dependents. However, the actual card has an expiration of 10 years from the date of issuance. So it must be renewed. And this is similar with the ID cards for Cypriot citizens anyway. It's not something that applies only to permanent residents. And the residence permit that's issued to underage dependents of an applicant is valid only until the underage of the child reaches the age of 18. An immigration permit shall cease to be valid if the interested person and his dependents fail to acquire residence in Cyprus within 1 year from the approval of the application, in case they are residing outside Cyprus. So you may be granted residency, but the immigration permit, the applicant needs to come to Cyprus basically within 1 year from the approval.